As the Board of Zoning Appeals, Monday, October the 24th at 6 o'clock. Call to order. First thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the meeting of October 10th, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Kohler and second by Mr. King. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, say none. Carries 4-0. Any special requests or continuances? Seeing none, we'll go to the findings of fact for BCA 2022-035 Development Standards Variance. Frank Williams on behalf of Ray Spillman Hyundai for the property at 1300 South US 31.
Mr. Chairman, in consideration of the statutory criteria, I move that we adopt the written findings of fact as presented, incorporate the evidence submitted in the record as our final decision and final action for variance petition number BZA 2022-035.
Motion by Mr. Kohler,
Second.
second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. Second findings of fact for BCA 2022-036 Development Standards Variance. Eric Prime on behalf of the Ruby Group for the property at 1001 East Worthsville Road.
Madam Chair, in consideration of statutory opportunity, I move that we adopt the written findings of fact as presented, incorporating the evidence submitted into record as a final decision and final action for variance petition number BZA 2022-033.
Motion by Mr. Mull,
Second.
second by Mr. Kohler. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. Okay, next up on the agenda, we have old business. BCA 2022-011 470, BZV, I'm sorry, 2022-011 470 Gray Oak Lane appeal. Jeffrey Chipman requested to appeal the decision that his property is in violation of. We just need on this. Do you have anything to say?
Yes.
I think that you need to be sworn.
Yeah, we need to have.
Before you speak, you need to be sworn in and.
Yeah. Well, we take, according to the city legal standards, you take sworn testimony, so we prefer to have any witnesses sworn in.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
he's
you.
supposed to be sworn in, yes.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chipman, would you go to the mic there? The mic is on, I'm assuming.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and
I'm here to appeal the Greenwood attempt to classify me as an event center. I don't feel like I meet the definition of an event center. I'm simply a private residence, allowing people to go swimming in my backyard. Therefore, if I don't meet the code of being an event center, I might get dismissed.
Do you have any evidence you wish to present to the board other than your sworn testimony?
Evidence to what? That I let people go swimming in my backyard?
This is your opportunity to present evidence to the board. I'm not here to tell you what evidence.
I don't really have any other evidence other than, I allow people to go swim in my backyard, and there's no difference than people allowing people to go and do taxes in their homes, but they're not considered event centers. There's a lot of places, a lot of homes, residents in Greenwood that have businesses out of their house or do business out of their house, and they're not considered an event center. I don't consider going swimming an event, for a limited time of the year. 3 months out of the year, people come over to go swim. I don't know why I'm being considered an event center.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak to this appeal?
Yes, the staff and the attorney will make a presentation in support of their administrative decision. It's the
Wait,
planner.
at the point they go,
Yes.
go ahead, need to be sworn in as well?
You swear on things for you. Testimony is true, the best of your knowledge.
Mr. Chipman, did you have any other evidence or any other witnesses?
Any other evidence?
Or for any other witnesses?
No.
We're ready for that.
Thank you. Members of the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Greenwood Planning Director, Gabriel Nelson, who is to my right here, will show that he indeed correctly interpreted the Greenwood City Unified Development Ordinance when he issued a warning to Mr. and Mrs. Chipman that the commercial rental of the residential swimming pool on their property for pool parties or parties, events, violated the permitted uses in the RM residential medium lot zone. I call Mr. Gabriel Nelson for testimony. Please state your name for the record,
Gabriel Nelson, Planning Director.
and how long have you been the planning director for the city of Greenwood?
I'm coming up on 2 years on October 24th.
Is it
Or not, but
as a planning director?
just about 6 months.
Is it part of your duties as planning director to interpret the Greenwood Unified Development Ordinance and issue warnings and citations for violations?
Yes, that's correct.
On or around June 20th, 2022, did the Department of Community Development Services Planning Division receive a complaint that the owners of 470 Gray Oak Lane were renting the residential pool to the public for parties?
Yes, that's true.
Did you review the City of Greenwood Unified Development Ordinance to determine whether the rental of the residential pool to the public was permitted?
Upon receiving the complaint, I researched our Unified Development Ordinance and found it to be in violation.
So is it true that you determined that such a use, if it were occurring, by the owners of 470 Gray Oak Lane was a violation of the Greenwood Unified Development Ordinance?
That's correct.
I am going to show you, Mr. Nelson, what I have labeled as exhibit number 1. And I'd like you to look at that and read that and tell me if you can identify that for me, please.
We have a page from our Unified Development Ordinance that includes our use table. On that use table, highlighted is event center, private events and conferences. And for this use table, it shows which zones that use is considered a permitted principal use and which ones it is not.
Is it a principal permitted use in an RM residential medium zone?
No, it is not a listed use in the RM zone.
Also, I'm going to show you what has been labeled as exhibit number 2 and ask if you could identify that for me, please.
Exhibit number 2 is a copy of our Greenwood Municipal Code. It is a page from our glossary. The glossary includes the definition of event center, private events, and conferences.
What is the definition?
Event center, private events, and conferences is defined as a commercial event center used to host private events and conferences such as weddings and other personal events, but not including funerals and private business or industry conferences.
I'm also going to ask you to please step forward and identify what has been labeled as exhibit 3.
Exhibit 3 is a map showing the location of Mr. Chipman's pool and its pool rental location. The shaded yellow tan area is our residential medium district. It is labeled RM. This star indicates the property that is our topic of discussion today. As you can see, it's in the middle of the RM zone. There is some commercial small that is located to the east. The commercial small also does not allow for event center, private event center.
Okay, Mr. Nelson, so why, when you read this definition from the glossary of the Greenwood Unified Development Ordinance, did you consider what Mr. Chipman was allegedly doing to be in violation? How was it an event?
And so it does include other personal events. When I received the complaint, we did some investigation, and we found that listed on Swimply, there was a pool that you could rent out at a rate. They had weekend and weekday rates. With that listing, you could use grills, restrooms, umbrellas, the pool deck, the pool speaker system, and other such related items such as pool toys that you could rent out with groups of 25 people.
Mr. Nelson, I'm going to ask you what's been labeled as exhibit 4. Could you identify that for me, please?
Exhibit 4 is a copy of the Swimply website printout. This was the listing that was found online that talks about many of the things that I just mentioned.
How did you determine, sir, that this was the Swimply ad or listing for 470 Great Oak Lane?
The photographs in the listing of the pool and its amenities match the aerial images of the pool and the location. The owner of the parcel, the owner records also related to the listing, the person who listed this posting on Swimply. We're able to prove that this was indeed the location.
Mr. Nelson, we now move to submit into the record exhibits 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have a copy for all of you. We need to visit these as we go through.
The record reflects exhibits 1 through 4 are admitted.
Council.
Thank you.
Nelson, you determined that there was a violation of the video for Mr. Pittman to list their pool, their residential pool on their Swimply app and get paid when there was a public to come in and use that pool.
Yes, I did.
Did you then decide to issue a warning to Mr. Chipman and Mrs. Chipman?
Correct. Following the investigation, I issued a warning for the illegal use.
I'll show you what Mr. Webb was exhibit 5. Would you please review that and identify it for me?
This is a copy of the zoning violation citation that is issued for a warning. The warning box is checked, and it also includes the attachments that were sent along with it to the property owner.
Mr. Nelson, why does the city of Greenwood regulate uses of property?
regulation of a property, and specifically the regulation of property through zoning, is done due to certain uses not being compatible with other uses. So certain neighborhoods might not all uses are compatible with a residential use. So if something is more intense, more commercial, it will conflict with others in that zone. That could be parking, noise, etc.
Mr. Nelson, is it your understanding that the operation of this private event center at 470 Gray Oak Lane was disruptive or disturbing to the adjoining and adjacent residential properties in the subdivision?
Yes, that is correct.
Did someone report to you that there were disruptive activities happening?
Yes, it was reported to me that there was a lot of noise, parking on both sides of the street. The listing did note that unlimited street parking was available, but it was mostly noise and parking complaints for the various parties that were thrown late at night.
And so you issued, what is Exhibit 5, a copy of this warning violation 2, Mr. Chipman, and did either of them contact you following the receipt of the warning?
Yes, upon sending the warning, fairly promptly, I got a call from Mr. Chipman, who called me and wished to dispute the citation.
And did Mr. Chipman subsequently file an appeal of your determination, and that's the subject of this hearing this evening?
Correct. After our phone call, that appeal was filed with my office.
I'll show you what has been labeled as Exhibit 6. We'll identify that for the change.
Exhibit 6 is the email that Jeffrey Chipman sent to my office with his intent to appeal my decision that he was in violation.
Now, we're now moving completely to the record section in 6.
Mr. Chipman, do you have any legal objection to the admissions of exhibits 1 through 6 that have been offered? Legal objections?
No, I don't have any legal objections.
Let the record reflect that exhibits 1 through 6 are admitted.
You know, Mr. Nelson, has Mr. Chipman ceased using his tool on the Swiftly app for use by the public?
No, that is, I do not know that.
I don't believe I have any further questions for Mr. Nelson. Mr. Chipman, I do have a question for you. Do you admit that you were using a form of Swiftly app for people to come in and use your residential pool?
Yes, not a residential pool, no.
Well,
Or yes, my
your
residential pool,
residential
yes.
pool, yes.
Yes.
Now, do you still have that Swiftly app, or have you removed the property from it?
Well, right now you cannot rent my pool. It's unavailable to be rented.
For the season, because the season has ended, sir, or
Well, if I don't make days available, then no one can rent the pool.
do you intend to remove it from the Swiftly app?
So I stay in contact with people that I've met, and it's more of a social media as well. But, you know, if I don't list it and make days available, then no one can rent the pool from me. I would intend to, if you guys find that I'm an event center, that, you know, I don't intend to make days available.
Well, thank you, sir. That's all the questions I have for you.
Anything further, council?
Just my summation.
Okay, let me ask if I might, Mr. Chipman, do you have any rebuttal?
I would like, yes.
And then we'll close with summations for both parties and then ask the board if they have any questions. Mr. Chipman, please address the microphone so we can.
Garrett, I'd like it sworn in. She'd also like to speak.
If Is this in rebuttal to anything that's been presented?
I'm sorry.
Is this in rebuttal to what has been presented?
Yes,
Will you
I'm
please?
sorry, I'm hard of hearing.
I've never been told I'm not loud enough, so I'll speak up. Madam Clerk, would you please swear in?
Yeah.
Mrs. Chapman, thank you.
That's not good, true to the best of your knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyway, they keep saying that I'm an event center. I don't meet the definition of an event center. And most of the parties,
I thought you were gonna ask her questions.
well, I wasn't gonna ask her a question. I think she just wanted to speak.
Right, then why don't we let her speak?
I don't know, I just heard some things that I just felt weren't true. The people that we have that come to our pool are people, it's usually small groups. We had an occasional large party, but they were not there till all hours of the night. Most of them were small family groups. Some of them were, we had just one man once who would come for about an hour and just swim in our backyard and relax. We have several people who are overweight and do the body shaming. They come to our pool where they can come to a private area and not have to worry about being body shamed. They made it sound like we were having these wild, crazy parties. And the larger parties that we did have, one of them was a birthday party for a 2-year-old. And I also, when I spoke with my neighbor, Mr. Davenport, he had told me that he did not file a claim, complaint with the city. He said he told me that he simply asked questions. He wanted to get some information, but now I'm being told that he complained about us. And I do have a remark to make about something he said to me personally. We allowed African Americans to come and have their parties at our house. And I was sitting on the front porch with Mr. Davenport, and he told me that they did not want those kind of people around because there were a lot of older people in our neighborhood and they are frightened. That I took as a racially motivated, because he did not have a problem with it. In fact,
Ma'am, I can tell you right now that the basis of the appeal that's here tonight is the decision of the planning director that has absolutely, unequivocally, nothing to do with race. It has
okay,
everything to do with
well,
zoning. I can-
except that that's
that's
what
part of the
Mr.
record.
Davenport.
That's not what this is about.
Okay,
Stop that right
well, I agree with my husband. I don't understand how we are an event center. We don't not provide them any food. We don't provide them any drink. All it is a bunch of people come over and swim in our pool. That's it. It's not, we don't supply any decorations. We don't do any of that stuff. We sit in our house while these people come over and go swimming. And I just don't understand how we can be considered an event center, like you would have your wedding in a hall or something. I don't understand that. And I'd like to know specifically for the wording, what does it say about someone having a party at their pool? Is there anything in writing that states?
We are not here to give you legal advice.
No, I mean, I don't understand how that's legal advice. I'm asking
That's up-
in
that's up to
the,
you.
in the code where it specifically says about a swimming pool being an event center.
I'd also like to add, most of the parties.
Mr. Chipman, I can allow you your summation at this point in time now, sir.
So much. I'd just like to add, finally, most of the parties that we had were my friends and family. You know, in no way did my neighbors know the difference between who was renting my pool and when I was using the pool for my own personal use and allowing my friends and family to come over and use that pool as well. And I might add that there's 33 pools out of 97 houses in my neighborhood. And in the summertime, there are always somebody having a pool party. There's always cars parked on the street. We never had a party at night, never had to turn, I mean, it was 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. was the cutoff for rental. Any party longer than that was my own personal friends or me and my wife enjoying our backyard. I don't know why the city of Greenwood is so interested in to go swimming in my backyard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Summation by the city, please. And then we will close.
I would recall Mr. Nelson for one more thing, and thank you, council, for addressing it, but for the record, so it is clear to everyone here and anyone watching, Mr. Nelson, at the point in time that you investigated this and you issued your warning to Mr. and Mrs. Gibson, did you have any idea what the race or ethnicity was of any of the people who might allegedly have been using this pool?
No, I issued the citation, the warning citation, without knowing anything of the sort. It was not until Jeffrey Chipman called me after the warning had been issued that he had brought up issues of race that were unrelated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, as I said earlier when we started, that the testimony exhibits would show that 470 Great Oak Lane is zoned RM residential meeting lot under the city of Greenwood zoning map. That the event center as defined in the Unified Development Ordinance that is part of your exhibit 2 clearly says that it is other personal events, and the Chipmans by their own testimony said pool parties, people come over and there was a party for a 2-year-old, that meets the definition of an event. That if you are just having your family over, that's distinguishable, that's your own personal use. But when you have it on an app and people are paying for the village to come into your residential property and use a pool, that violates our Unified Development Ordinance. This use was an event center. The operation of it is not a permitted use. City of Greenwood regulates the uses of property under the UDO so that a use is appropriate and compatible in the area in which it's located, and properties adjacent to it. Mr. Nelson correctly interpreted the Unified Development Ordinance and its intents and purposes when he determined that the activity, the rental of this pool, was in violation of the Unified Development Ordinance because it's not a principal permitted use in a RM zone. He properly interpreted, he properly issued the warning. His actions were all in accordance with the Unified Development Ordinance, and on his behalf, I respectfully request that you affirm an interpretation of the UDO and the issuance of the June 21st, 22 warning of zoning violations to Mr. and Mrs. Chipman. Thank you.
Thank you both. Now we can close the hearing, and now it's open for you folks to ask any questions if you do, and to take any action as you've been requested to do. You may ask questions of both the petitioner, excuse me, as well as the respondent, if you so desire, and certainly discuss amongst yourselves any questions in public.
I don't have any questions. I just, the only comment I could think of is, I know you were questioning about the event center thing, and you said that you guys don't provide decorations and all that stuff. I do work in that industry, and most event centers actually don't provide most food and decorations. I can see why there's interpretation of this, and so, I mean, I definitely see the gray area, but I don't really, beyond that, I don't really have any questions. So, I mean, what you might perceive as an event center, the city, I mean, there are several event centers around this Greenwood and Indianapolis area, so, I mean, they pretty much are kind of sticking to what those definitions are. I think it's solid.
Mr. Keith?
I guess the only question I would have for the city is, do we have an incident where we can say there was a party or event and we know that that was from the app? That way we could distinguish family from.
No, I don't believe so. I believe this Nelson makes it determined based on, if you got a complaint that someone was renting it, you look on Swimply, identified it was the property, and Mr. Chipman did not deny that it was happening.
There were various reviews from people who have used it.
Yeah, sir, could you address the times?
There are various reviews from people who have used this pool. They are listed on the Swimply website. they are a part of what was submitted into the record. They say things like, "This was such a great experience. Jeff is a great host, and the backyard is gorgeous with a wonderful array of flowers. We'll definitely be back. Thanks, Jeff." There are numerous reviews that show that people have used the SwimPool app to rent out the pool.
Maybe oversimplifying. I believe you could have a party at your pool anytime you want, as long as it's a private party. Problem is, you charge for it. And when you charge for it, it then becomes a commercial property, which is in violation of the sub-control or the development ordinance. And money changes hands, that becomes a commercial issue. And clearly that violates our unified development ordinance. That's the only comment I have.
Excuse me, and I think that's the way I was reading the event center description that distinguished it from being a typical business in the home, as alluded to by Mr. Chipman, as other folks have. Typical business in the home is not considered private parties, and the event center is a commercial event center used to host private events. So I think there's a distinguishment between business versus an event center. And the citation for event center clearly says if it's for commercial use, which means you charged, you got paid, that's a commercial use, then that would meet that criteria of what is a event center under the unified unified development ordinance. So I'm not sure I'm hearing any dispute with that. You did get paid, you used it for private parties that qualified as an event center under the ordinance. Would you agree, or do you see something different than that?
No, I don't agree with that.
I think the question was, sir, if you could hear, did you get paid for it? That was the
Well,
question.
swim pays me, yes. I do get, I
You
get
got
paid
paid
from, I don't get paid directly from the people who go swimming.
I understand
They
it's
actually
paid
rent it
through.
from Swimply, they provide the liability insurance and their contract is with Swimply. And they just book the time, usually it's a couple hours,
But you got paid.
Yes, I got paid. Yes, I did.
That's all the questions I have.
Then it's ready for official action, and as you were reminded by statutory requirements are, this is a 5-member board. In order for you to take official action, you need a majority of your entire membership. I understand Ken is not here today, so he's out of town, so you'll need to take official action, 3 of the 4 of you in order to take official action. The request before you is Mr. Chipman's request to overturn the decision. The city has asked that you affirm the decision of the planning director as referenced in Exhibit 5, the warning letter of the zoning violation.
Point of order, may I speak for the association?
Sir, we've already closed.
closed the
we
hearing.
Closed the hearing at that point.
Excuse me?
We already closed the hearing at that point.
Okay,
We asked for other people that wanted to speak, and I didn't see your hand, I'm sorry.
You need a motion.
Well, we're used to the formed out.
Well, this
Well,
is,
this is a little bit, it's a little bit different, because this is an appeal from an administrative decision. So your motion could be that you affirm the decision of the planning director, which means the interpretation is set forth in the exhibit would remain.
So moved.
exactly.
That was your motion?
It was it. Second,
Second.
motion by Mr. Fuller, second by Mr. King. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. You have official action. I'll prepare appropriate findings of fact to submit to attorney.
The decision is that we affirm the violation charge. Will there be paperwork issued?
Yeah, I'll do this. Get the letter, there's a warning letter, so it wasn't fine.
I have that. Please. From my plan, help me out.
That's why I'm here.
Give us a moment while we switch gears here.
Oh, good seeing you guys. Thanks for letting me work with you. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes. Exactly. So, now that we've reassembled, we're continuing on with old business, BCA 2022-033 use variance for petitioner Quick Trip requesting approval of a use variance in order to operate a vehicular gasoline with convenience sales at the southeast corner of Main Street and Graham Road. Vehicular gasoline with convenience sales are not permitted use in the IC interstate commercial zone. Well, is here to present or to speak for or against this. Please stand and be sworn. Oh, wait, before we do that, we need to make sure are all the notices in order.
Notices are in order and in the file.
And I submitted to the record a certified copy of the Unified Development Ordinance and the city's comprehensive plan.
Okay, all those planning to speak for or against, be sworn in by our secretary.
Do you swear on offenses, perjury? Yes, to the best of your knowledge.
Okay, who do we have speaking here? Before you begin, give us your name and address for the record.
For the record, Russell Brown, an attorney with the law firm of Clark Quinn, Mosey, Scott, and Drawn, 320 North Meridian Street, Suite 1100 in Indianapolis. Also with me tonight, Eric Bigus. I always want to mispronounce it. Bigus from Quick Trip, and then Matt Brown from AMF Engineering. So,
Tell us why you're here.
walk through our request provided to you. Quick slideshow I'll walk through with you to orient you to the site. Now, this is at 3.68 acres at the southeast corner of Main and Graham Road. And the request this evening is to allow for a variance to allow retail convenience with gasoline for 5,300 square foot convenience store with 16 auto pumps and 4 diesel pumps. That's 20 total pumps, 12 sites. Your ordinance permits retail convenience gasoline with less than 2,500 square foot for 16 pumps, and 16 pumps are 8 spots in the IC zoning with a special exception. We also have conventional standard variances related to the sign package this evening. Go to the second slide to give you a quick idea of who Quick Trip is. They're in the process of entering the Indiana market with their convenience stores. Quick Trip has been in existence for nearly 65 years. In the gasoline convenience business for more than 50. They now have more than 900 stores in 14 states. And they're one of the largest privately held companies in the United States. Quick Trip was one of the revolutionary forces in having 24-hour convenience stores. And has consistently been named one of the best places to work in the United States by Forbes. They have a long history of charitable involvement and a longtime corporate sponsor of the Fulton Honors Scholarships, safe places and united ways in the communities where they operate. This site, go to the next slide, shows the site plan. The site will utilize new curb cuts on existing private drives. So there will not be new curb cuts directly onto Graham or onto Main Street. I think that's an important component of the plan that's before you this evening. The next slide there shows a rendered site plan, shows how the site on full development would look from a bird's eye perspective. The proposed store would be their current floor plan, which focuses on providing high-quality fuel products as well as convenience items, inclusive of fresh-made and grab-and-go food offerings. The addition of the separate diesel canopy will allow the location to serve the many industrial warehouse users, including those regional and local drivers that support those facilities. You'll notice there is no long-term truck parking field contemplated on the site. So the goal here is to cater to the need of fuel and refreshment. Those drivers need fuel and refreshment, not to be a long-term parking break. This would be similar in impact to the Spirit Speedway, which is across the street, and less like other existing and proposed users closer to the interstate. Like many regional and national users, having quick trip near or adjacent to or visible or nearby, the interstate will allow for those interstate travelers who know and trust the brand, utilize location, while also providing a convenient offering for local and regional utilizers. In addition, tonight to your file, we provided a few items that we provided to staff in advance of tonight's hearing. First, in the next slide, we provided an excerpt of a letter from the ANF engineering firm on the potential traffic impact of uses at this location. We had Mr. Fairbach and Brown provide an analysis of what impact the increased number of pumps and building size would have on peak hour traffic versus what is permitted at the site by special exception. The conclusion of the letter shared with your city engineer would be that the impact would be negligible based on the variance requests before you tonight. This letter is not a substitute for a full-blown traffic study, which we have already been in discussions with city engineering regarding, but we were not able to have completed, fully reviewed prior to appearing here tonight. As I mentioned, Matt Brown with ANF is here. If you have specific questions related to traffic impact from the site. We've also provided elevations and perspectives of the proposed facility. Go to the next slide. But we believe that these proposed renderings in the file before you comply with the staff's requested conditions regarding facade material types and other ordinances applicable to the site. Included in those renderings, there's about 4 of them that show renderings from offsite. So from Main Street, one from Graham Road, one from the hard corner itself. And then we show the building elevations as well, the renderings there as well. We think these provide and meet the high quality that's been set, standards that's been set by the existing nearby development, while also being in line with Quick-Trip's development patterns. We do have some variances that relate, we think, are unique to this site and are caused by the orientation of this site. First, as you know, this has multiple street frontages, multiple canopies, and segregated auto and truck fueling. So there exists there a need for a larger quantity of directional signage. You have the next slide that says sign variances. Looks like this has the proposed directional signage and the locations for that proposed directional signage.
Can I interrupt you for just a moment? I believe that's part of your second petition.
Okay.
That's separate than this one that we're listening to now.
Sure.
The one that we're hearing right now is the use variance request.
It is, and ma'am, I
And
should
then
have-
the signage is petition BZA 2022-034.
I should have asked permission to present on both of them at the same time for ease of reference, and then I can absolutely take separate votes and absolutely read my findings of fact to the record.
Can you hold just a moment?
Yes, ma'am. I apologize. I meant to do that at the beginning, and I apologize for that.
How do you feel about that? You need to merge the two? You okay with that? You want
Then we
to
can vote
vote?
on it separately.
We'll have to vote separately, but we'll go ahead and let you present it combined.
Are your detailed statement of reasons very, very similar?
They are similar, but there's.
Okay.
there's some
There is some
differences.
So we have to know when you're being distinguished.
Yes, ma'am, I can do that.
Okay.
I apologize for not asking that. That's my
I just wanted to make sure that you knew where we were before proceeding.
Absolutely, thank you. So, those are signs that do not require permitting, but at a limited size. So we requested a larger size, as part of our variance here. We believe the larger size is important, given that those are directional signage locations. The second variance related to signs, relates to our canopy signs. This has canopy frontage on three canopy frontages. The auto frontage has, the auto canopy has frontage along Fourth Graham and Main Street, and the diesel canopy has frontage along Graham. So we've asked for a variance for the overall aggregate size of canopy frontage as well as the individual size. The proposed signage carries through Quick Trip's well-known and recognizable logo in a way which is meaningful, we believe meaningfully scaled. We believe the scale and overall quality and quantity of signage is in keeping in line with the intention of the sign regulations, while keeping in mind the very real needs of the user and the site characteristics. We have reviewed the staff report and are agreeable to conditions included in the staff report, both as it relates to the variance of use and the dimensional variances. With your favorable votes this evening, we will look forward to working through the site approval process, beginning construction of the site hopefully in 2023, allowing for development of a new corporate citizen to Johnson County who will bring their community supportive corporate mindsets to Greenwood, while providing reliable and high quality fuel and convenience items to local and interstate travelers. I am prepared to read into the record my proposed findings of fact as it relates to, we can start with.
Let's begin with the use variance. I'll begin off. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because
The use will be appropriately scaled to the parcel upon which it's located, providing appropriate access points out of the primary thoroughfare, providing desired and valuable service to the traveling and community public. The site design and layout provides for ease of access for consumers, and deliveries on and off site, while allowing ease of access to customers within the site. The use meets the required separation to residential areas of the community. It is located at a signalized intersection. The presence of a diesel canopy will not include features associated with the truck plaza or truck stop. Will serve diesel operators to meet field convenience services only.
Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because
The use has proper separation from residential uses. It's not located in an area where fueling stations are prohibited under the UDO. Proper location on a hard corner of a signalized intersection, and the zoning are intended to attract interstate commerce uses, which would include the auto canopy uses associated with the proposal. Presence of a small number of diesel pumps on site without truck plaza or truck stop services will serve more local or regional diesel users as compared to those users closer to the interstate who are catering towards more national diesel users. The lack of truck parking on site will prevent the site from becoming a location where long truck stays occur. Presence of a similar use on an adjacent corner provides evidence that this use, this location can properly interface with areas adjacent to the property.
number three, the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property involved because
Parcel is in relative proximity to the interstate interchange, but not immediately adjacent to it, and thus has restrictions upon development, which carry the burden of the IC zoning without all of the benefit. Use is commercial in nature, generally is permitted in medium to high intentionally commercial areas of the city. Parcel as platted is large enough for the proposed use, but perhaps not large enough for multiple uses contemplated and or favored in the IC zoning classification, especially for a development plan which includes no direct access to major thoroughfares adjacent to it, instead of providing access only from private drives. The layout and location challenges lend themselves to a use which is a drive-by use, meaning users will access these uses at their convenience travel patterns. Proposed location will benefit local and regional diesel users by being located near pickup or termination points. And convenience store use will benefit commuters and diesel users alike, with convenience store items as well as prepared food choices with no regional operator in regulated store.
Number 4, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unusual and unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought because
Requirements for variances here are based on the size of the convenience store being more than 2,500 square feet, the number of pumps because of the presence of the diesel canopy. Proposal is consistent with the pump limitations included in the UDO for auto pumps, and the convenience store size is proportionally relative to the size of the parcel that is a prototype store for the applicant. Reduction in the size of the convenience store will prohibit the applicant from offering the typical broad array of products within the store, which would lead to consumers stopping at more than one location for all consumers who needs to be met. Elimination of the diesel canopy would prevent the applicant from serving local or regional diesel users with a viable alternative to other planned or existing diesel canopies in the nearby vicinity, which focus on more regional or national type carriers. The applicant is taking care not to design or consider a convenience store with amenities focused on the regional or national type carriers, as to not encourage extended parking by drivers with a limited number of diesel spaces. The design consideration was made to be in line with the intended uses in the zoning classification, but still requires a variance.
And number 5, the approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive plan because
The area is contemplated for commercial development. Proposed use will commercially serve both adjacent commercial development, nearby residential development, and a large-scale industrial development to the north. This combines convenience store items as well as services needed to support local and regional logistics, which support the industrial uses, and therefore complies with commercial designation in a way which is supportive to current and future anticipated needs.
and you indicated we were in agreement with the staff proposals of conditions with number 1, the building shall be a minimum of 60% mortared masonry. Number 2, signage to comply with section 10-03-08 L2, gasoline sales signage requirements pending any variances granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Number 3, parking and or storage of semi-trailers, semi-tractors, trailers, or tractor-trailer rigs shall be prohibited on the subject property. And number 4, showers, lounges, and sleeping facilities for truck drivers or other members of the traveling public shall be prohibited on the property. So you are agreement with that? Correct?
I guess that's a question. 60% mortar masonry, that excludes areas that are part of the nature transparency requirement.
Transparency is taken out first. It does not count towards the action.
Yes, we're good with those.
Okay, now on the ordinance for the signage, we'll go through the material for that, and all 4 variances were combined to have 1 response for each one of the criteria.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, number 1, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because
The use will be appropriately scaled to the parcel upon which it's located, providing appropriate access points out of a primary thoroughfare. The site design provides for ease of access for consumers and deliveries on and off site. The number of pumps will allow the provider to serve both auto consumers and local and regional diesel consumers without the possibility of long-term parking or tractor trailers. The requested canopy and directional sign requests are part of the prototype development for the applicant. So the applicant can work to communicate to customers and potential customers in an appropriate and responsible manner.
Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because
The requested signage variances are only necessary to better provide orientation to customers of entry points and offerings within the location. Various entry points to the store, the various convenience offerings will positively impact the success of the location, thus providing a higher quality development benefit the subject property and the surrounding neighboring properties. Presence of a number of diesel pumps on site without truck pause or truck stop services will serve more local or regional diesel users. The site is large enough to accommodate the number of pumps as proposed. The lack of truck parking on site will prevent the site from becoming a location where long truck stays occur. The presence of similar use on adjacent property provides evidence that this use can properly interface with those areas adjacent to the property.
Number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because
Signage is requested meets the corporate store requirements and needs established by the regional operator. The directional signage is necessary given the various uses on the parcel. Allows for customers to have knowledge of store operations and locations. The presence of a separate diesel canopy in the frontage of a corner lot necessitates a third canopy sign. Size of the canopy signage is appropriate for the size and scale of the canopy and allows for the required corporate branding. Without a variance for the number of stations and pumps, the operator would likely need to combine auto pumps and diesel pumps in the same portion, which would create opportunities for negative interaction between diesel users and auto users. Separation of these two uses is a benefit safety of the traveling public. The directional signage oriented to promote the separation of this truck and auto traffic.
Number 4, the structure is not regulated under Indiana Code 8-21-10-3 for hazard air navigation. And the staff proposed 2 conditions associated with this variance request. Number 1, a completed sign permit application be applied for and issued before installation of canopy signs. Number 2, signage to substantially conform to the renderings depicted in Exhibit D. Are you in agreement with those?
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this, either of these 2 petitions? Or ordinance? Seeing none, close public hearing. Panel have any comments or questions? Mr. Muller?
No.
Mr. King? No. Mr. Kohler? And I have no questions. I'll proceed on here to admit the evidence into the record.
Separate ones or
Um,
one for each?
One for each, one, two,
For
each
each
one.
house.
Let's just go through one because we're going to vote on that one and then we'll go for the second one.
Madam Chairman, I move that we admit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's applications, attachments, petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, the staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, testimony of the petitioner, city planning staff, and any remonstrator, and all other exhibits presented, be they oral or written, for consideration by this board in regard to this petition, and to include the testimony of those present this evening.
Motion by Mr. Kohler,
Second.
second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. I'll entertain a motion on the decision. We're doing 033 first.
Yes, the use variance.
Use variance first, 2022-033.
I move to approve the request with, actually, it's four,
Full conditions.
well, it's 3, because the first one's actually. Staff has no objections.
Look at the 4.
They're all
Four conditions.
All 4 listed.
Yes.
Whether they're condition. So I'm going to approve it.
Second.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Fuller. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. We'll entertain a motion for findings of fact on petition BCA 2022-033.
Having considered the statutory criteria, I move that we direct the Corporation's Counsel Office to draft written findings of fact regarding our decision on the variance request presented in variance petition number BZA 2022-033. Said findings to specifically incorporate the staff report and evidence submitted into the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as our final decision or final action regarding this petition at our next meeting.
Motion by Mr. Kohler. Second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. We will go on to petition 2022-034. Motion for admitting the evidence into the record.
Madam Chairman, I move that we admit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's application and attachments, petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, and staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, testimony of the petitioner, city planning staff, and any demonstrators, and all other exhibits presented as they be they oral or written for consideration by this board in regard to this petition, and to include the testimony of those present this evening.
Motion by Mr. Kohler, second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. Entertain a motion on the decision. Request for, we need to address each one of the variances. There are 4 variances.
I move to approve request number 1 with the 3 conditions listed by the staff.
The
Two.
technical signs. The first one is condition, so the completed sign permit application and signage shall conform.
Yeah.
Second, motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries on request number 1. Take the motion on request number 2.
I move to approve request number 2 with the list of the 2 conditions. That's what it is.
The same 2? Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. Don't forget to sign all 4 conditions when you return. Okay, request number 3.
Move to approve it with the same 2 conditions.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. For request number 4.
Move to approve with the same 2 conditions.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. Okay. So, Mr. Brown, we have,
Motion for written findings.
oh, yes, I'm sorry. We need a motion for written findings of fact on BCA 2022-034.
Madam Chairman, having considered the statutory criteria, move that we direct the Corporations Council Office to draft written findings of fact regarding our decision on the variance request presented in variance petition number BCA 2022-034. Said findings to specifically incorporate the staff report and the evidence submitted into the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as our final decision and final action regarding the petition at our next meeting.
Motion by Mr. Kohler, second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. Now, Mr. Brown, you're welcome to continue working with the staff to make sure you get all the permits and whatnot filed appropriately. And we'll take our final action at our next meeting, but you're okay to go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck.
Thank you. Old business from the floor, seeing none, we'll continue on to new business. BZA 2022-037 Development Standards Variance. Petitioner Rick Bartlett is requesting relief from Unified Development Ordinance Section 10-03-14 Building Design Standards, the Commercial Design Standards to allow multiple materials on the side and rear elevations. Who do we have here to present? And anyone else wishing to speak for or against? Anyone wishing to speak needs to be sworn in. Our secretary?
Do you swear that this is perjury? That's not true.
Okay, before you begin, we need to make sure all the notices in order.
Notices are in order and in the file.
And I placed into the record a certified copy of the Union Unified Development Ordinance and also the Green Comprehensive Plan.
Okay, so now Mr. Bartlett. Thank you. We'll go ahead and get to the microphone and tell us why you're here.
Okay, hello, everyone. This property, I don't know if you have any.
Oh, name and address for the record, I'm sorry.
Rick Bartlett, 2041 West Epler, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay, continue.
This subject property is a unused car wash, has been for a long time. It's on South Meridian Street. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. The parcels sets one parcel back from the main road. So it's not visibly seen from the main road. It's got residential to the rear. It's got some older type development to the south. It does have a newer type retail development using the updated standards. We're proposing, or we're in the process of remodeling that facility to turn it into a retail type facility. I've got some, I don't know if you want to see this, but just to tell you what we're doing. The front, well, the street side of the building, I've been working with staff and we've got to where that will meet the current requirements. Due to this building is a remodel, it's not ground up construction. I'm looking for some relief on the sides, on the right and left side and the rear of the property. The standard calls for 100% masonry. Like to use less than that, and instead of 100% masonry, we're going to have a portion of that and then use a stucco drive-it type material in place of that, which is pretty commonly used in commercial construction, exterior construction.
Okay. You have your findings, your statement of reasons for the petition.
Yes.
We'll need to read those into the record. I'll lead you all. Are you ready? Okay, number one, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general community because
Well, it's just a change of exterior construction materials.
number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because
It's a technically a minor change. Several of the adjacent properties are actually, even with this relief in place, would still be, from an architectural standpoint, built at a higher level of most of the adjacent properties. They're adjacent to the subject property.
number three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because
Since this property, there's two reasons. Since this property is a remodel, some of the existing, we're trying to use some of the existing material due to trying to maintain and use some of the existing construction that's there. It causes us a little difficulty up near the roof line to meet that 100% masonry requirement on each side.
And number four, the structure is not regulated under Indiana Code 8-21-10-3 for hazard air navigation. There is one condition that the staff recommended, that the commercial site plan application to be submitted prior to any procedure on this property.
We've got, that's been in the works.
Okay.
So I think it's actually close to approval.
Okay, but it is a condition with our decision here that must be complied with before it's officially approved. Are you okay with that?
Yes, that's.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak to this petition? Yeah, close it up. Oh,
Just, Dave Nelson, Planning Director, staff would like to speak a little bit about this petition. We were favorable of this petition and this request. I do want to clarify, the variance is for using multiple materials on the side slash rear elevation. So our ordinance requires that the side elevation be clad in 100% of the primary material of the front elevation. So it will still include multiple materials, and I think that is in line with our Unified Development Ordinance intent under building design standards, where it's asking for promotion of a durable, aesthetically consistent, but not harmonious or monotonous design. So staff is supportive of this variance, and we have been working with them to get the fully completed correct application. I believe we have most of the application, but we're looking for the commercial site design application. Thank you.
any response to his comments before we close the hearing?
But that's fine. I've got a couple of quick pictures if anybody's interested. Taking a look.
Any into that at this point? Okay, let me go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up to the panel for any questions for you. Mr. Mull.
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. King,
No question.
Mr. Fuller.
No question.
I just have one thing. I just want to make sure that we're
Recorded.
clear in the record. The two sides that we're concerned with are not readily visible to the public on State Road 135, the way I understand it. That's correct. So these
It's
would
the
not be
two
something
Two
that
sides.
is
and the rear.
obvious
It's the front
for
side.
any variance.
That's
Okay. And you did indicate this plan is to change it to a different kind of commercial. It's not going to restore the car wash.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, well, I have no other questions. I entertain a motion to enter the evidence into the record.
Madam Chairman. Move that we admit all the evidence presented in regard to this matter, including the notices, receipts, maps, photographs, written documents, petitioner's application and attachments, petitioner's detailed statement of reasons, the staff report prepared by the planning department, certified copies of the Unified Development Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, testimony of the petitioner, city planning staff, and any demonstrators, and all other exhibits presented, be they oral or written, for consideration by this board in regard to this petition, and to include the testimony of those present and sequence.
Motion by Mr. Kohler, second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. Entertaining motion on the decision.
Madam Chairman, I move we approve this with the staff condition listed commercial site conditions. Medical site.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. And entertain a motion to direct the council for the findings of fact.
Madam Chairman, having considered the statutory criteria for the direct corporations council office to draft written findings of fact regarding our decision and on the variance request presented in variance number BZA 2022-037. Said findings to specifically incorporate the staff report and the evidence submitted into the record for consideration and adoption by the Board of Zoning Appeals as our final decision and final action regarding this petition at our next meeting.
Motion by Mr. Kohler, second by Mr. Mull. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0. You will be permitted to continue to work with the city with the plan, and But you can continue on now.
I won't need to be present.
No, you do not. You are correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Continue on. Any new business from the floor? Seeing none. Any announcements?
One second. Yes, announcement, we do have a full agenda for next week. We will have 3 different petitioners for BZA.
I mean, a couple weeks, I hope, not next week.
True, 3 weeks. We have an extra Monday in there. So guys, enjoy that extra week.
Okay. All right. Anything, Sean?
No, ma'am.
All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
And I think our planning commission is gonna need a pause here to change seats.
5 minutes, we'll start at 7:20.